very good day to you fabulous listeners out there, and a warm welcome to Eagle Hour with me, Jamie. Now, I have a very, very special lady with me today as my guest. She is a chemical biologist, National Geographic Explorer, and award-winning artist who has challenged the status quo in her field and bridged the gap between science and society in a way few others do. She has a deep knowledge and fearless energy in everything she does, and has just recently released a groundbreaking book about magic and science of the Amazonian rainforest and its cultures. She has been awarded Peru's Order of Merit, the country's highest state of recognition for environmental protection this year, and has also been named one of BBC's 100 Women. I could go on, but I think we better let you find out who she is. Hello, Dr. Rosa Vásquez Espinoza. It's amazing to be able to talk to you today.
Hi,
I feel
Jane.
very humbled to be being able to chat to you today with your brand new book as well.
I feel so happy and so honored to be here with you. I'm a big fan of you and what you
thank
do
you.
as well. So thank you. That was very, very kind.
You're welcome. Well, I think I'll start with what started your passion for the natural world?
And I'll ask you that right after as well.
Okay.
To be honest, as a kid, I've just always loved to play outside. And I grew up in the city. And so we have a small garden, but it's just like any big city. It's busy. You hear the cars, honking.
Yeah.
And there's just so much things going on. But the garden that my grandmother built, it was small, but it was like a refuge. I would go straight after school and spend time with her, and she would just slowly and softly cultivate plants and some small trees and different resources that she would then use to prepare medicinal cocktails. So anytime we had like a stomachache or a headache or anything really, she would just go to the garden, or even for cooking, of course. And so I just grew up so close with that. And I did had a unique opportunity to visit my family in the Andean mountains as well as in the Amazon growing up, spending entire summers of school anytime I had. And so I just had such an amount of play with nature and hearing my grandmother's stories as well. I was just always like, wow, that sounds so cool. And my dad would tell me stories. I remember, I think maybe I was 6 or 7. And he told me a story on how some scientists somewhere else in the world were like doing something to DNA of grapes to make them bigger and like juicier. And I was like, wow, that's just magic. So I just wanted to know more. What about you?
Well, my passion for wildlife began with a massive passion for dinosaurs. And when I realized that I wasn't able to see a real dinosaur, I then found out that birds and animals and insects are all related to dinosaurs. So that's really where my passion for wildlife began. And I was using binoculars to focus in on animals, but I found it really hard getting a good look at them before the animal ran away or the bird flew off. So Dad asked if I'd like to use a camera, but I didn't want to drop the camera because I knew how expensive it was. But when I started getting pictures of sparrows in the bushes and things around the garden, I improved in photography, and that's where it all started, really.
Just getting to see like wildlife up close. I feel like with photography too, then you get to catch glimpses of details. That's for example like microscopy for me. I think when the first time I got to take microscopes into the field and then just to see, for example, a praying mantis wing under the microscope and just seeing the colors and the textures and the little hairs, just things that would completely go oblivious if you didn't have that close up. But I feel I'm not, a photographer, but I love your photography work. But I feel like that is kind of what the magic that photography allows us to do, to just take that second and then just immortalize it.
Yes. So what was the most cool thing under the microscope that you looked at?
I like to take a small field microscope everywhere I go, just because you never know. But I think that very first experience, we were in the Boiling River in Peru, which I talk about in chapter 2. We can get into it because it's just a whole story on its own. But we were with a team of experts that study praying mantis, and they go to look for them in the wild, which is also a different story, because I feel like you need so much patience because they are such great, camouflage.
They're the masters of camouflage.
Oh my goodness, they can spend 8 hours in the night at the jungle trying to look for them and not find anything. And I was like, guys, I can't. Like, I'm too impatient for this. But we found one that had naturally died, and so they were collecting it to ID it. And I said, "Oh, can you just give me a minute with it?" Because a part of the wing was kind of coming off, and so we put it under the microscope. And at first glance, if you just look at the wing with naked eyes, it looks a little brown and nothing special, to be honest. But the moment we put it under the scope, all these shades of orange and yellow and even like hues of green came up, and it looked like, it reminded me of the walls of Machu Picchu, like the type of rock structures that you got. And to me, my brain just exploded. My mind flew. I was like, wow, this could, I don't know, it just gives you a different perspective from micro to macro. So yeah.
Would you say it's one of the best moments that you've ever experienced with an animal?
I think it's definitely one that made me wonder so much, because I was like, what other details are we missing? Like the first time I did that with stingless bees, I got to appreciate a structure that they have right between their eyes that is called the ocelli, which it's like a third eye, but it serves as their compass. So it allows them to know like the height at which they're flying and really be able to direct themselves. And that's why they're so precise in their movements.
Wow.
But I couldn't really appreciate that so detailed before. And that was really cool. So I feel like as a scientist, I get to see a whole different angle that then leads to questions. But just as a nature lover, I just fall more in love,
Yeah.
What about you? What's been like your favorite or one of your favorite photos?
That's tricky, because I like all the photos that I take currently, because you get to see different sides of the wildlife. So you can see characters come out in insect macro photography, and it's just really cool because you can see maybe how fluffy they are or the detail in the eye, the lenses, and it's incredible, especially with bees. But I'd say my favorite picture might have to be a picture that I got of Frederick, our pet turkey. And he was actually a bit of a challenge to get the picture of, really. But he did allow you to get very close to him and stroke him sometimes as well. So he was a very good one to work with. And Dad was holding up a speedlight flash to fire onto him. So we had a bit of light because we were in his massive little enclosure, and it's quite dark in there, so we needed a flash to get some light on him, and I was moving with him trying to get a headshot, and it was just really tricky, but I did manage to capture an image of him. So that would say one of my favorite pictures.
Oh, that's cool. Plus he was a pet turkey, so you got to kind of have a relationship with it as well.
Yeah, definitely. Do you find that you get a lot of you make friends with the animals that you find and stuff?
100%. I think growing up, having such a close relationship with the Amazon rainforest and with the knowledge and just the perspective, like the cosmovision, the worldview that local communities like my ancestors held, the relationship with animals is just so unique. And I'll tell you a story I think that best represents it. It was a while ago, and we were working with stingless bees, and the kind of species that I've been working with, they tend to be very docile, very calm, very gentle. They're going to fly around you. It feels like they're dancing. It's beautiful. It's such a meditative experience. And that had been my whole experience with them up until then. I knew they could get a little spicy if they wanted, but I had never seen it. And it was another day in the field, and we had to go back to work with the hive that we had been working. But that morning, they just decided to go all out, and they were acting so aggressive. And
Yeah.
they are the size of a regular honeybee, so not particularly that big, but the speed at which they were flying, they were kind of coming at us against our skin, plus the strong buzzing. So it felt like they were just physically, like mechanically trying to exert some sort of pressure in you, but they were also biting. And if one bites you, you may feel like a little tickle, but if hundreds of them are biting you, they are gonna clinch to your like hairs and to the eyebrows and just anywhere that they can clinch to, and it can be really painful. And so I remember approaching and just not being able to, like, I was like, no, I literally cannot do this. And then the beekeeper said, just give me a minute, as if he has seen this many times. And he grabbed some cotton and put some cotton in his ear holes as well as in his nose hole, so that the bees cannot fly in there. And he just kind of asked us to step back, and then he placed his face into the hive.
Yes.
And for like a minute, you could see him getting beaten and, it was hurting because they were flying at him. But within just a few seconds, I wish I would have recorded it. The bees just calmed down, and then it just felt like if they were like, okay, I know you. Complete calm down, changed their pace. They behind to be just went back to being docile and dancing around him and just being so gentle. And then he came out just kind of laughing, took the cotton out, and he said, they just needed to say hi to me. They haven't seen me in a few days, so they were getting antsy. My bees know me. They know I'm here. So, now you go, it's fine. And I think it was just that relationship that for a long time, I think we've disregarded that animals can build a relationship to humans as well. Even for a long time, people didn't know that bees can recognize shape and human shape. It was understood that they couldn't. But yet now with new techniques and new research, it shows that they can. They can actually detect faces. They can remember faces as well. Perhaps it's also pheromones and things that they can smell. But they recognize who care for them. And that day was just, for me, that was the epitome of what we could get to. If we build a nice relationship with them.
You were talking about stingless bees. Now, they don't have a sting and they were biting. Do they have any other types of sort of defense mechanism that they use?
Yeah, so the biting, they have also some sort of toxins that we don't really understand the whole processes yet.
Okay.
But the experience I had was that one of those, and another time, also must have gotten a little tired of me and decided to bite me right here on my eyelid. And at the moment, it just felt uncomfortable. And, I was like, it's fine. The next day, I was flying back from the jungle to the capital city, and I was going to go, I think, to Panama for some work with National Geographic. And so I had like a few hours with my family before I had to go on a plane. And my eye just literally got so inflamed. It was red, it was puffy. I could not see. Every time I blinked, it felt as if I had a piece of glass stuck in it. And I was like, oh my God, there was not even time really to go to the doctor. And I had that for like the next 2 weeks. I even had to wear an eye patch because the day after I was flying to Panama to give a big keynote. And I was like, I refuse to come out with an eye that is just looks absolutely awful. So, I just cover it. I came in, I said, I'm sorry for the drama, but this is just necessary. And then eventually it got okay, but it took a while to recover. So, their bites can be quite strong. Something else that's quite cool is that they can detect what trees produce medicinal resin. So, the kind of wax that you can collect from trees when you tap some certain kind of trees. And so they do that specifically for one that we know as dragon's blood or sangre de grado in Spanish. Many medicines, life-saving, that, you find in hospitals today derive from that tree. But they go to that. We've even captured with actually macro photography. We work with an amazing local storyteller. He got to capture in photo how they have little pockets on their legs where they typically carry pollen. But instead, stingless bees also carry medicinal resin there. So they just use it for multiple purposes. So they went to this tree, and we literally saw a drop of that deep, dark, blood-like resin being carried on its little leg. And then they take it back and use that together with with, you know, what they produce to make their little homes and the little pots where they deposit honey. And that acts like an antimicrobial. It basically kind of deters certain type of ants or other pests.
And what sort of pests actually go for stingless bees?
Oh, many actually. So ants is a big one. There is a type of black fly as well that if it gets like a certain kind of temperature and the hive is too exposed, and they will just come and start eating the poor larvae, so the little baby bees, or they will steal some of like the honey and pollen. My favorite, I wouldn't call it a pest, but maybe like a predator. It's the anteater. So they have like a 2-meter long tongues. I haven't seen this yet in the field, but many people have told me, I'm dying to say it. They like to find the stingless beehives, and then they put their long tongue. They know they're not gonna get stung, and they just go ahead and steal all the honey, and then they go away.
Well, that must be a very, very long tongue then.
Yeah, it's almost like 2 meters, and they're so chill and, you know, nonchalant about it. I've seen them out there in the wild, but I've never seen them go after a stingless beehive, but they do.
Yeah. How big's the black fly then?
The black flies, no, they're tiny. Yeah, we've seen some ladybugs as well, but we believe that they are not necessarily negative against, that they may be actually good. We have seen also recently, one of our team members sent me a photo like a month ago. They saw a specific kind of tiny scorpion that it seemed to have nested within the stingless beehive. But surprisingly, that hive was the one that produced the most amount of honey in that period. I see. That could also be potentially a symbiotic relationship, so something positive that the scorpion must be getting and giving something, but who knows? There's just too many questions there. You know? We need you to come and do some of the work.
Oh, that'd be amazing. I was talking as well to a professor in bees. His name is Professor Dave Goulson, and he knows a lot about bees. And we, for a brief moment in the conversation, we were talking about sort of insects that go for solitary bee species or bees like stingless bees, and they are classed under the family as kleptoparasitic. Have you heard of kleptoparasitic?
Yeah.
Yes, and they're all under there, so the black fly would probably be in there, and loads of different species. So yeah, it's definitely incredible how they use different mechanisms though to get into stingless bee hives or solitary bee holes and loads of things like that, really.
There's some stingless bees that steal termite nests as well.
Oh, wow.
And sometimes they cohabit with the termites at the same time. And so they basically nest on the ground. And for some particular reason, that honey that is on the ground, the indigenous communities use it to treat eye infections or cataracts. So only that kind. So whether it's because of the relationship with the termites that kind of encourages the bees to perhaps either consume different plants or maybe even like the microbes in their tummy to produce different molecules. So the honey ends up, you know, different enough to cause that effect, at least for them to say it. Absolutely fascinating. I think there's just so much we don't know between what you are mentioning, right? The parasitic relationships or even other, positive relationships as well.
Yes, and there is so many species that are kleptoparasitic or do actually help bees. And how many of those species have you actually seen?
Well, this work, we've only started it last year, actually. We have a collaboration with the University of Colorado. So there is a lab there, Dr. Sami Ramsey. He is an incredible researcher. Most of his work has been across Asia, but looking at exactly what you're talking about and focus on honeybees. But I said, do you want to do stingless bees too? Nobody has looked at this, not in Peru at least. Because when we started, really, nobody had done more in-depth science on the topic. And I feel like sometimes people may feel like, oh, but everything's been done. Like, what is there left for me to do? But I feel like in different parts of the world, there's just so much that's still left to be explored in this type of research experiences. And so, we've just started. So hopefully at some point soon, there's an incredible PhD candidate working on this project together with some local people in Peru that we've paired up. But I will say, when you were mentioning solitary bees, the one of the best stories, and this is more a cultural story, but that I found fascinating. There's a community that they belong to, the Haragboots tribe in the southern part of the Peruvian Amazon, that share one of the most beautiful creation myths, or story of creation, basically how they see the world, and it's through bees. And so the explanation of the leader to me was that at the beginning of time, the universe was like solitary bees. People were working independently, away from each other, raising their kids alone. And so society didn't develop until social bees came, stingless bees, and they were acting in a community and working together. And so people learn from stingless bees how to work as a family, as a community, as a group. And that's when society thrived and became the world that we have today. And when he shared that, he just said it in passing, but there's just so much there that tells you how, you know, the communities view the world, and they explain it through animals. So I feel like when we talk about protecting wildlife, and, you know, through your work, I think storytelling is such a powerful way to protect it and advocate for it. We are also not just protecting the biodiversity, but these stories, this culture, this way of thinking, this way of feeling, this type of empathy that I think we all just kind of need to learn more of, you know?
Yes. So what does science sort of mean to you, and how important is it for sort of people to learn about?
For me, science is just like a fun, different way to look at nature, because I feel like one can look at it through the eyes of my grandmother, for example. She looks at what can be medicinal and what is poisonous, or what to stay away from. And in her words, every plant is medicinal, from the smallest to the largest. But then you also see the person I just shared this story from, you know, they see nature through a lens of culture and society. For me, science is just that additional lens. And so I feel like, as in the academic world, sometimes, you know, we have to enter in such a detail, in such depth, which is key to advance the work. But I think for a long time, it has also excluded cultural viewpoints or indigenous worldviews. If we do include them, I think we can just make things so much better. And an example for that is, and I'll refer to stingless bees because I think is the best example for this, but to identify the species is actually quite tricky if you just rely on DNA testing. Morphology can even also change based on the altitude or the elevation or the ecosystem. So you could be dealing with the same species, but from a first sight, it could look different. So it could be quite confusing. And DNA, for them, is still quite a very complex and expensive and lengthy process. But indigenous communities across the Amazon, because they know what hive to go to, and I mentioned a little bit about this in my book as well, they identify the species based on the little entry, like the little door to the hive. So they each make a very unique door depending on the species, so much so that the accuracy of identification, it's brilliant. Like you cannot really match it, in my opinion, with current scientific methods, not to that speed and that accuracy. And so the moment we integrated that indigenous perspective, the work could just accelerate at a different pace. And we integrated, you know, our local indigenous colleagues as researchers, because that is observation, that is measuring, you know, that is testing. But what does it mean to you?
Well, I'd say science is really important because you get to discover new things about insects or animals and all sorts of different things. And you get to discover the little secrets behind their behaviors, or how they nest, the size of a nest hole in a bee hive, all things like that. And they're just incredibly important to work out different facts as well, aren't they?
Yeah, and I think also when we have all of that cool science as in-depth as we can go, then we can also kind of take a step back and say, okay, science-driven policy is just as important, because a lot of time when we talk about conservation law or conservation policy or initiatives, you'll be surprised at the disconnection that sometimes it exists with science. And there is already, for example, so much research done on how to help pollinators here in the UK. And yet, you know, sometimes you see policies that are trying to reinvent the wheel. And I think sometimes we just need to communicate in so many different lenses to make it approachable, to make it inclusive, and to just, say, hey, we have all this data, then let's use it for something good now,
Yes. And what's your favorite fact that you've discovered about nature?
Oof, that's a difficult one.
Yeah.
I would say my answer will change every few months. But right now, I think looking back, one of the first expeditions I led like independently, I was completing my PhD, and I have been going to the Amazon since forever. Since I'm 1 year old, I've been spending time there. But that was the first time I was like leading. I was still very young, and I was, remember, the youngest and the only girl. But it was in also one of the most extreme and dangerous places in the Peruvian Amazon, that is the boiling river.
Yes.
I think it's chapter 2 in the book. And I hope you get to come with us next time. Imagine, a pot of boiling water, but now turn it into a river. The entire section that is boiling, you see the bubbles, you hear it, and then the vapor is just scorching hot, and it's like rising, it's hitting your face, your whole hair gets wet, like you're breathing it, like you're in an extreme sauna, but outdoors. But yet you have wildlife not minding that, really. You have tall trees, you have animals that come in and around close by, while when you look at hot geothermal systems around the world, like Yellowstone National Park, if you ever get to go, absolutely fascinating ancient ecosystem. There are some in Iceland, in Japan, in Ethiopia. Like these boiling rivers exist around the world, but they tend to be connected to volcanoes. And when you see it, you typically don't have anything around except maybe for small grass. Like there's something called the panic grass that I can tell you about in Yellowstone. It's fascinating. But again, this is small bushes. But in the boiling river of the Peruvian Amazon, you have tall, giant trees just there. So we did the first microbial assessment. So looking at what kind of microbes could exist where nothing else can survive. A place so hot that if a small mammal, like a small tapir or a small, just any wild mammal falls into it, you know what happens when you put like chicken in a boiling pot of water, right? So it like cooks rather quickly, and it has a tragic death. But because it was so extreme for a long time, people thought nothing can survive. But of course, when you look at it through the lens of science, you know that what can? Microbes. They're tiny, they're mighty. They absolutely can change their DNA in real time. And their evolution process is just so much faster. And so there are extreme forms of microbes there. Nobody had looked at them, mapped them out, knew what they were. And there are many reasons as to why that's important. But we were the first ones to discover actually 9 species that were completely new to science.
Wow.
And that was fascinating because, again, they connect to all of this insane flora that just doesn't mind living in this hot environment. And I think particularly now when we talk about rising temperatures and climate change and everything that our planet is facing, there are already lessons within nature that we can learn from to hopefully, take 2 steps forward and actually do something about it. So I think that was one of the coolest that I could think of right now.
Yes. And didn't you find the thermophiles in the boiling river?
Yeah. So extremophiles, that comes from, the Greek word of philes, which is like loving, and then extreme. So they love any sort of extreme. So in the sense, in the case of the boiling river, we have thermophiles. They love the heat. You have hyperthermophiles as well, which means they love extreme heat. So for example, if you find a microbe living above 80 Celsius, so you are reaching your 99, your boiling temperature, they are going to be hyperthermophiles. In theory, scientists say that they could be reaching up to 120, 140. I believe that they you have a subset that could probably go higher. I'm convinced of that. But for example, in Antarctica and really cold places, you have cryophiles. They love the cold and they will be living there. You have some microbes, extremophiles, that love to live in the deep trenches of the ocean, so they can sustain that pressure that nothing else could survive. Or they can sustain insane levels of radiation that would kill anything else. So yeah, no, extremophiles are fascinating.
Yeah, they definitely are. And you said that you discovered 9 new species. Have they got names yet, or are you still trying to think of a name?
Well, yeah, we named them after the cultural spirits of the river. So that was work that I was finishing in my PhD and postdoctoral. So we're hoping it will get published soon. There was another team in the US that was continuing the work. So crossing fingers, it comes out at some point. But yeah, I think it was also that part of how do you connect the science to culture, which to me is just so important that we bring that conversation forward. And so we wanted to, I think what's typical or what has been done traditionally in the past is for the scientists that discover, the team that discovers something, whether it's a space or a species, to give their last name. And that's definitely valid in certain scenarios. I think in this one, it just makes so much more sense, and I think it's more respectful and valuable to give the names of spirits that the local people have been associating to the river for a long time. And that can also then serve as a way to say, hey, I have new biodiversity. Government, help me protect my river, So I think, we like to think about that as like the future of exploration.
Yes. And you were talking about spirits. Now, in your book, you were saying about loads of different spirits, including Evil Eye and Shalashaki and loads of ones. Can you tell our viewers and listeners a little bit about the Shalashaki and what it is?
Yeah. So in Spanish we say the chuyachaki. I love how you have to teach me how to pronounce it so that people can understand when I'm saying the word as well. But so it's one of the creatures that some of the most powerful, respected, strongest leaders that I have met fear the most. Even more than fearing jaguars or fearing the Amazonian bushmaster, which is the only snake that follows you. And we can get to that after. Yeah. So many of the leaders that I've met fear the chuyachaki way more than any other animal that predator that you can find in the jungle. So just starting like that, I think when you are trekking through the jungle at night, and you'll get to do that with us at some point. We'll make it happen.
That'd be amazing.
You just feel something alive around you. And I think we can give any scientific explanation to that from, certain trees or flowers release certain chemicals and they have a certain impact in your brain, to just the aspect of you actually relaxing. You can connect many things, but ultimately how we as locals refer to it is there is a spirituality associated that just kind of comes to life at night. So that at night is one of my favorite times. And that is when the chuyachaki spirit is believed to come out. And so it's believed to be this kind of small type of man-like creature that has one foot bigger than the other. I think there's many myths around the world, that describe just creatures that one is scared of. But in the case of the chuyachaki, some of the local people say that it can turn to look like someone you love and then trick you to start to go deeper into the jungle to then take you away. So some others say that you may never see it, but you will hear the voice. So one local leader told me he was spending a few hours in the rainforest at night looking for food for his family, because that's what they do, gather or hunt. And he started to hear the voice of his daughter calling him, saying, help, help. Yeah. And he panicked. And he's like, it's my daughter in danger. Do I need to go? And he said, and this is a man I trust with my life in the jungle as well. Yeah. He wanted to go to the direction where he was hearing his daughter's voice, but he knew better. And he said, no, that's just the spirit trying to trick me. And there's many beliefs around that you didn't brought an offering to it. So some people like to carry Amazonian tobacco, which is a stronger version of a cigarette native to the Amazon, as well as some garlic as well. And they carry it in the pocket. And it's the idea that if you do, then the chuyachaki is going to be calm. It's not going to try to trick you. But I think it just speaks to that type of spirituality, positive or negative, that people live by and explain nature around, you know?
Yes, and it's quite incredible the different sort of myths behind the Chalachaki. And inspired by reading that part of your book, I decided to try and think of what it would look like. And I drew it on a piece of card.
Can I see?
I'm not sure if anyone will be able to get it. It's in that room there. And I was thinking, what can I do? And I hadn't read a part later on saying what it could look like. And then one part saying I had scraggy clothing and a long hat. And that's exactly what I chose.
Oh my gosh. Oh, that's creepy.
So that was actually quite shocking. That was quite shocking, really. But yeah, it's incredible seeing different types of what spirits can look like and different myths behind it. It's quite cool seeing
I think
stories
we see a lot
stuff.
of like similarities around the globe as well, of like I said, these type of creatures, you know, for example, Bigfoot in the US.
Yeah.
Such a, you know, important figure for mythology in a way. Like people still to this day create entire shows, you know, entire seasons looking for Bigfoot. And there's so many stories around it of people that believe they have seen it. And there's the equivalent of that in the Amazon as well. It's called the Mapiwari.
Okay.
And it's also described again in a similar lens, whether the local people have ever talked with Americans or have done so in the current times, who knows? But I feel like there's some sort of resonance that, you know, kind of you're describing, you didn't even knew the description and then you drew it, that we kind of see around. And interestingly, kind of happens with scientific discoveries as well. If you look at the history of scientific discoveries in our planet, sometimes, and this specific example is skipping my mind right now, but sometimes you have at the same time 3 scientists from different corners of the globe having the same aha moment, discovering the same thing. Oh, there it is. I appreciate it. I get it. Let me see. That is insane. Oh my goodness. Wow. I'll put it here to see if we can
be seen. Yeah. I was thinking, what could I do to try?
Can I take a photo and show it to the Indigenous leaders that we work with? Because I think they'll be like, yeah, that's insane that you... Yeah, wow.
Yeah, so I was just sitting outside in the garden thinking, I wonder, I know what I'm going to draw. And then I was thinking, what can it look like? And I'm not sure what I did with the legs. It went a little bit wrong down there.
Well, to me, it just looks, again, it's like that... dysmorphia almost, you know, like that's kind of how people describe it as well. The limbs are a little off. Sometimes it may not have all the fingers as a person, but you know, no, that I feel like that's quite accurate. Scary.
Don't know. But yeah.
Is there any myths that you ever have come across that like have kind of made you think a little bit more or like made you wonder?
Well, I'd say definitely in the book is when I've been reading about some myths and things. And I'd say the quirkiest one was probably the evil eye. Of what it can do and things. That was quite incredible, really. But they're all quite interesting, the different stories behind them and stuff. And we're talking about the book so much, I think I'll just bring it. So what inspired you to do the book?
So... I've always wanted to be a writer, but I never even knew the process of writing a book, to be honest. Yeah. And I just kind of focused on my scientific and conservation career for so long. And I feel like just naturally a lot of stories started to emerge. And the deeper I go to the Amazon and the more I connect and work with people, I have more communities approach us and ask us to share their stories, to work with them, to just help elevate. And I feel like that has also been my personal experience when experiencing the Amazon through different modes. It's just this necessity to share a different view of it, because I feel like we often have heard about the Amazon through many incredible voices and varied voices as well, but not too often from people that have grown up there, and particularly women. And we'll have to check on this. But last time I checked, I had not seen a book written by a female doctor, like a PhD holder from Peru about the Amazon, or just, in general about the Amazon. And I think there is a certain need that we have now as well to show that female explorers and female scientists, have a very unique angle to share as well. And so I think it was that need to share stories that I've heard most people not know about the Amazon. There's still so much that we can gather and learn from it. And I think now with everything happening on our planet, it becomes more critical than ever. And to be honest, I think for a long time, I took a lot of this beauty for granted because I'm so connected to it. And so these experiences feel so normal to me. And as magical as they feel to me, I never really realized they would be surprising to others, to be honest.
Yeah.
But they are. And I think they make us kind of reconnect and fall in love with nature. And although I do talk about the Amazon rainforest, that is the topic of the book, I think it hopefully can just spark people to see their own garden in a different lens, or make them wonder about, what myths would there be around here, or what kind of biodiversity or cultural stories. That was kind of what my goal with the book was.
Okay. And I think I've gone through at least half of the book. I've tried to read as much as I could of it. And which one would you say was your favorite chapter through the whole book?
That is difficult because I feel like some chapters just came out and some were difficult because I had so many things I wanted to say. I tried to remember exactly where I was for each of these stories through photos and videos that I've just collected on my phone to just share vividly and get people to like be in the place with me as they're reading. I would say personally, one of the most powerful ones for me to write, because I think I kind of understood more of my own experience as I wrote it, because it had just happened quite fresh, and it has led to incredible new avenues of what we're doing now. Perhaps was chapter 11. So I'm curious to hear what you think when you get to it. But I specifically share about an experience where I did ayahuasca as a part of a medicinal ritual that the indigenous leaders that we work with do to learn new ways of healing and learn new ways of connecting. It's such a powerful central resource in traditional medicine. And I had the experience, and this is going to sound a little wild, I had the experience of transforming into a black jaguar. And that had never happened to me. And that's actually quite rare. Because when you talk to indigenous leaders and shamans, they all claim to summon the most powerful animals around them, because that is what kind of enables them to gain wisdom from nature. And in that experience, I was able to smell medicinal flowers and to kind of trust my instinct as well in exploration. And I feel like there was so much to deconvolute after that experience that I did while writing the book. And it has led to me learning about incredible new science that I didn't know, that connects to a lot of chemistry and biology that, I've been trained on, but I had never kind of put the pieces together in that way. And it has led to really cool new work that we're doing. But I mean, Stingless Bees, the Boiling River, I thought that was a very... it made my heart race as I was remembering the crazy experiences we had there, and the dangerous ones too. Yeah. Which one have you liked the most so far?
Ooh, that's tricky. I'd probably have to say that the Boiling River one was definitely my favourite so far. It's probably going to change through the book. But so far, I'd say the Boiling River is definitely the sort of most dangerous one. It's quite exciting. See, you were talking about the bubbles and everything. It was incredible. And what would you say is the most dangerous moment that you've come across?
There's been a few, and I think if you ask my husband, the answer will change as well. So I'll try to think of that. You ask my mom too. So the one, and I describe it just in passing actually in chapter 2, because we decided to focus on another story when our team member got injured while we were exploring, and he
Yes.
accidentally dipped his feet ankles deep into boiling mud, and the sun was coming down. We were not ready, although we were all experienced explorers. We didn't have the gear to stay past a certain time, and we had to trek through virgin jungle with an injured person that also was the tallest of the group, so we couldn't even carry him. And we ran into fire ants on the way, and all of this journey that should have only lasted 20 minutes, it became like an hour of really painful, I think emotionally also, just seeing someone that you care for being so hurt and knowing that you just have to keep going. I think mentally, besides the physical challenge, it was really hard. And then thinking, oh, we're about to come out, everything's going to be fine, the nurse can take care of him. But then coming out of that experience and then forgetting that we had not done the most difficult part, which was crossing the actual boiling river. I think that was in many ways, one of the biggest challenges, I think, personally and as a team, even though I was not the one injured. It was, I was also leading a subgroup of this expedition. And so that was my first one as well, like leading.
Wow.
So there were many things, I think that I learned from there in terms of how do you manage risk and how do you even intuitively, in a matter of seconds, can get the best out of the team that you have there, so people can be focused and you can get to a solution that keeps everyone safe, So I think mentally, that was definitely the most challenging one. Physically, I mentioned it, like I said, in passing, there's a section of the boiling river that is known as the Spider-Man Wall. And it's called like that because you literally, to get from one side to the other, you have boiling water below you, at least, 80 Celsius plus. So you do not want to fall in. And you kind of have to rock climb a little bit of it. And so you have to grab, there's the wall, it's quite flat. And so you have one section where you can grab one hand. You have a little bit of leadway to put one foot after the other. But then to really cross that boulder, you have to kind of swing, and in 1 second you need to grab on the other side. So you have one attempt to do that, and then place your foot after that, then come out of it, and then you get to the other side. Why we were interested in doing that, it was because it's so difficult to get to that other side. Not many had done it. We heard only 2 people had ever crossed it in the last 10 years.
Wow.
So from a scientific perspective, that meant less contamination, perhaps different microbial biodiversity. I was like, we have to get those samples. Like, there's just no question. And I had a tiny little bit of experience in rock climbing. I heard your mom is a climber, so I do not claim to be a climber. I'm really bad, but I had a little bit, enough to say, can I try it? Because the other 2 people that had done it before were around. So I said, if you guys get on one side and the other, maybe you can guide me through it and I can be as safe as I can in that process. My mom completely disagreed. She panicked when she learned I did this. I was also much younger, but I mean, I did it. What they didn't tell me was that not only do you have to watch out for the boiling water, but, and making sure you're not falling, there are splashes of hot boiling water coming from certain parts of the rock. So not only was I just hanging there, it was also stinging from the hot water, and there were spiders all around. So you have to make sure you're not getting distracted by the tickles, really, It was, I think personally that felt one of the most dangerous moments. Yeah.
Yes. You were talking about spiders as well. What's your favorite species of spider then?
I think tarantulas. They are, because I think they have such a bad rep in certain parts, because they're so big and hairy, but they really are very gentle.
Yes.
And they're really chill. I mean, of course, some people keep them as pets, but in the wild, they're just minding their own business. There's another one, it's a brown spider of the Amazon, forgetting the scientific name right now. It is quite dangerous if, something happens, because I think you only have 3 hours to get the antidote to it. So you don't, wanna be bitten, but they are also very docile. They're kind of this size.
Wow.
But they're in a way they're a bit similar to tarantulas in like the hairiness.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're just chill. Mind their own business. What's your favorite?
Ooh, well, tarantulas are definitely really quite cute and they're very fluffy. But I probably would have to say the Bolance spider because they have an incredible tactic in hunting. And what they do is, I think spiders have around about 4 to 5 different silk glands that they will use to make webs and all sorts. And what the Bolance spider will do is get a big sticky blob of silk and then get a long bit of rope, so it's like a piece of blue tack and a long bit of rope, and what they do is they can fire out certain pheromones that signal to male moths that it's a female of their species when actually it's the spider. And then what the spider will do is it'll throw its bolance at the moth and try and catch it with the sticky ball.
Little cowboy.
Yeah, it's quite incredible.
Wow.
I've only seen videos of it, but I'd definitely love to try and see it in the wild.
Gosh, that's fascinating.
Yeah, there's definitely fascinating sort of behaviours that animals have. And what would you say is your favourite sort of behaviour that you've come across?
Well, I mean, you just mentioned pheromones, right? That's really just molecules that the wild creates. And I say the wild because we, of course, also as humans create pheromones, and that is even, plays a role in attraction of partners and many other things. There's a really cool piece of work that I read recently that now is there's scientific data to show that people can smell fear. And so the idea that there are certain molecules associated with emotions that our bodies, produce and then release through our skin under certain stressors. And so I thought that was fascinating because exactly what you just described. So that spider is like, I'm in hunting mode. I see that moth. I'm going to get it. So I'm going to get this, molecule produced. And we can talk about that too. Because just those processes are fascinating. Yeah. But there's just that chemical communication aspect that I think only in the last decade or so really we're understanding, properly. Like plants talk to each other through some of the molecules that they release as well. There is that interaction with insects of both, attracting for pollination purposes as well as deterring when they don't want to be, all consumed or eaten, especially if there's like so for example, when certain insects come to certain flowers and are like biting physically the leaves, then that physical process does trigger a response from the flower to release certain molecules to kind of basically become a little like bitter or, toxic to the insect. So then it kind of deters it from doing that. But I mean, in the last, I think, few years, the idea of trees communicating with each other through, fungal networks and the chemistry as well that is undergoing there has become such a key talking point in conservation, and to the point that there is a term, the same way that we have www for like the internet, it's considered the wood wide forest. So like this idea that all the trees are really connected underneath through fungal and microbial networks that basically, in a way, the microorganisms are fixing nitrogen and phosphorus. So they're recycling most of that material that is on Earth, which allows, of course, the trees and the plant to grow and be healthy and thrive. And then in exchange, they're getting sugars and food from them. But also the idea that, they can communicate threats and danger. So there's many evidence of plants being able to tell each other when there is like a certain predator. So then they either close, like a physical closure. Some flowers can do that, right? Yes. Or the actual release of certain molecules that deter that. And as they have, the way I like to think about it is like if we could put colors to it, I would just see like rainbows going all around, of these like hundreds and thousands, countless communication signals that are going around. But in a way, I think if we're able to even just take a glimpse at some of them, we can get to many solutions for humanity. Just, for example, because of that ability for plants to defend themselves or trees to defend themselves, those molecules can also have a benefit to humanity. And that is actually how we get many of the medicines that we have on our medicinal cabinet to this day. Like at least 1/3 of medicines in a pharmacy derive or have been inspired by the natural world, plants, microbes, animals. And I mentioned many examples in my book because I think that really is what convinced me to study science.
Yes, and it's definitely incredible how trees can sort of talk and things. And you were saying about how medicinal purposes from plants and things can help. What would you say is the best plant medicinal-wise for people?
Oh, there's just so many. And I'm fascinated too when I get to interact with other cultures as well in other spaces. Like we were just talking briefly before we started recording on Alaska and Yellowstone, and just kind of me becoming a student all the time is like my favorite thing, because then I get to learn from others and what they're doing.
Yes.
Particularly from my grandmother. She has this insane recipe where she grabs an avocado, which everybody can have, and then she gets to the seed, and then she has a whole, I like to call it a scientific process, because she has her whole chemistry, like laid out. Although she never had the chance to attend school or even learn how to read or write, she processed the seed in specific way of like drying and soaking it in water and other things that she kind of puts together from her garden, and then ends up kind of grinding it and then creating a certain powder that eventually she puts into her drinks or tea and stuff like that. And it helps with her arthritis. And so she has just, I think she is my favorite, healer. Of course, I have to, I'm a bit biased because she is my loving grandmother. I would say I'll mention 2 examples. So the dragon blood tree that we mentioned at the beginning, because of that photo, stingless bees carrying the little resin on their pocket. So it's a beautiful tree in the Amazon, and they are quite recognizable because of the pattern of the colors on the tree trunk, but also because of the leaves that they have. And I even draw a little bit in my book about it. But when you tap it, you have this deep dark resin, and it's known as the liquid bandage in the Amazon. So by that, traditionally people grab a little bit of it, and let's say you have had a cut and you put it and then you rub it, and as you rub it, it becomes a white paste. And then you just leave it there, and it helps close wounds so quickly. And I used to do that as a kid, thinking, that's what everybody did. Because my dad would bring me different bottles of this resin, and that's what we had in our medicinal cabinet. That was just what we grew up with. But then, of course, over time, learning that there's been incredible research done on that. There is a medicine that got approved by the FDA in 2012 called crofelemer, that is one of the 2 botanical medicinal drugs approved by the FDA, basically deriving it quite directly, so without many synthetic processes. And it's used to treat diarrhea for patients with HIV. And so, some people also drink that resin whenever they have, really bad issues with their stomach or gastrointestinal. So I think that is one of the most fascinating, like, nature remedies. Some people use it even for beauty. The aspect of the sustainable harvesting is a whole other topic, but it is fascinating. And I love to use it in the jungle if I have any little cat, or even with mosquito bites. Another really cool example, and it's perhaps a bit like not quite as direct, but back in I think it was, I don't want to say the exact date in case I get it wrong, but it was definitely ages ago. In the Brazilian Amazon, there were workers working in the banana plantations. That is, they are growing bananas as part of their job. And sometimes whenever they were bitten by a specific snake, they would pass out temporarily because their blood pressure would drop so quickly. And they were used to doing that. They knew how to handle it. Nobody really thought twice about it until some scientists said, wait, hold on a second. Could that help us treat high blood pressure? Because it has that natural response of lowering your blood pressure. Long story short, they collected some of the venom from this specific snake, and it inspired the creation of what we know today as captopril, which is one of the to-go medicines to treat high blood pressure. And since it has actually inspired around like a lot of family of high blood pressure medicines. So I feel like there's so many lessons in nature for medicine that I think we need to go back to it now more than ever.
Yes, it is incredible. And I say my favorite sort of medicine out of this book that I've been reading about is the Amazonian tobacco, as it's got incredible things that you can use it for, not deterring evil spirits and also helping some sort of medicine as well. What medicines are they?
So the Amazonian tobacco, like I said, it's like a cousin of the cigarettes that we have today. It was actually brought, and I do describe it a little bit more in the book. It was brought by like the first European explorers that went to South America. But the European market thought it was too strong because it is really strong. And so in the Amazon, I primarily use it to repel mosquitoes. So if you blow some of that tobacco on your skin or your hair, it actually helps to a certain extent to not get that many mosquitoes on you. It ain't bulletproof, but it helps. But a lot of the medicinal healers use it as a way they claim that it recalibrates. So after they have done some healing, whether that is through medicinal herbs like my grandmother or ayahuasca or different kind of treatments that they may do, they consume the Amazonian tobacco as a way to just normalize their energy again. They also use it as a way to treat patients. So for example, my mom has done quite a lot of treatments with them. It's basically blowing the smoke over certain points of the body that are supposed to just kind of recalibrate a lot of the flow that they believe that's how the body operates. And it just has such a varied use, many parts of the plant, not just as a way to smoke it for those purposes, but also the leaves are also used by different communities to treat different illnesses or skin conditions. So it is a very like a to-go plant, like multi-use.
Okay. And you were saying that it can be good mosquito repellent. What other plants can be good mosquito repellent then?
There's another tree. I forget what chapter that is, but it's called the copaiba tree.
Okay.
So it's a tall tree, beautiful. The scent is gorgeous, but you can make an oil from it that smells really good. So I actually like it as a natural perfume. But when you rub it, for me, that is like the best mosquito repellent. So if I do those two things, I'm like even better protected. But it is just a very soft oil for the skin that it has there's been some research done on it, so there's some chemistry that kind of explain that activity. But it's also just such a beautiful tree. What is your favorite tree?
I'd probably have to go for a UK species of tree.
Of course, yeah.
And I think it would have to be the oak tree because it holds so much like life and biodiversity and different species of animals and insects and birds. It's just an incredible part of our ecosystem. And it's also really important as it gives homes for insects and also for birds as well. And I think dormice like to sort of hide away in it and hibernate as well. So it can be quite vital in the massive circle of life because it's a hibernation spot and a place where birds can nest and raise their chicks and things.
There's just so much life, is it? You know, I think when people talk about trees, sometimes if you just look at that, like the macro details, like you just describe hundreds really of species that could depend on a tree. It's fascinating.
Yeah, it's definitely fascinating.
One of my favorite, like my coolest tree facts that I've just I'm in love with. It was also more central southern part of the Amazon, but there are communities that believe there is a tree called the ceiba tree. It's one of the tallest that we have. Giant structure, just the roots, like I'm as tall as just the roots, like the lower part, that big. So you could actually set up camp there and feel quite protected. Absolutely stunning tree. But because it's also one of the tallest and it's also used, many parts of it are used for medicinal purposes. Many communities even back in the day, used to bury their dead close to that tree, because then they believe that there's the spirit of the people after they are deceased. They would go all the way to the treetop and be close to the sky and live within the tree. And so there is this idea associated with specifically old trees, old, ancient, big, sacred trees, that when a grandparent dies, they go to live in that tree. And there's another community that I do mention this a little bit in the book, but I don't think I go into much detail. The grandfather was a powerful shaman, and he died already a few years ago of natural causes. And they believed he now lives in this one tree that gives them the best medicinal resources. So whenever we get to visit, I was there, I've been there quite often, but it was maybe 2-3 years ago that I got quite sick. I had a very bad case of stomach flu, and I was also leading an expedition. So it was absolutely chaotic. It was the first time I'm actually that sick while having to do work in the field. And they told me like, oh, we got you, let's just make you a specialty. And they went to the grandfather tree and made me a tea that helped a lot. And so it's this idea that trees are not just this incredible home for countless of species, but they may also quite literally be grandparents to local people. And so also when talking about taking down trees or deforestation, is more than just taking down the biodiversity. It's also taking away, culture and even like family members. So trees are just absolutely gorgeous to me for that regard too,
Yes, and they're definitely incredible as well, and fascinating. What was I going to move on to next? There's so many questions I'd like to ask. I think I'm going to go on to, have you ever tried macro photography?
A little. So we mostly pair up with local or international storytellers that have a way better ability at that than me. I like to play with it, but no, I haven't really dabbled into it, to be honest. But I do love that whenever we have camera people, photographers, filmmakers around us, especially at the beginning of science projects, I have noticed that the ideas that come out on what science to do next or what new questions to try to answer open up like times 10 whenever we have creative people around. And I find that absolutely fascinating, because they are going to be seeing things through a different lens. They want to get a specific detail, or like you said, light, or a color, or a behavior because of X, Y, and Z. But then there's been so many instances that they try to get at a photo because it aesthetically looks great. And I'm like, wow, we had actually never really looked that closely at that. And now that is going to lead us to do this other kind of work. So I'm a fan, but I haven't dabbled much. I'm not like you. What is your favorite like macro photo, I guess, that you've taken?
Ooh, that's very, very tricky because it's just astonishing looking at a macro picture. It doesn't exactly matter what insect it is or anything. I would probably say that it's just looking at the eyes or details, even hairs on insect. And I remember, I think the first image I took of a sort of insect was a fly, and I didn't have a macro setup, but when we did move on to a macro setup, for a diffuser, we used a piece of A4 card with some brown tape strapped to the flash, and it actually worked quite well.
Oh, that's great.
And I think it got me an award as well, so I'm very thankful for that.
That's resourceful and effective.
But we did move on to a proper Cygnus Tech diffuser, which is incredible for details. And I look at my first picture, which was of a fly, and you could see some of the lenses. But then if you look at it through a flash and diffuser, which shows even more detail, it's just incredible, because you can see hairs, the lenses, and if you look at a dragonfly as well, you can see that the different types of lens that they have in their eyes, because I think it's like the top and the bottom part are used for different items. So we have a magnified one at the bottom or top, I think it's the bottom, and then you have a wide angle sort of lens, at the top, and that helps them to
Wow.
sort of distinguish where insects are. So it's just incredible looking at bugs.
There's a cool. So have you heard of the work of Brian Scarry? He is a
No.
National Geographic photographer, incredible explorer that specializes in ocean work.
Oh,
And
okay.
he was one of, he was actually the first to document through video and photos the behaviors of certain kind of whales. And I don't want to say the species because I'll get it wrong. But if you look it up, and basically they saw the behavior of mom and daughter, I think it was, in a way that biology was not able to get up close to even try to decode how these type of relationship happens, because you can answer so many questions about their community and even their life and their just their whole behavior that really helps you also protect them or and understand what threats are are impacting them. Again, it's that idea that if science becomes open and inclusive of other perspectives like photography and videography, God, the things you can do. So we need to get you to the Amazon.
That would be amazing.
Some photos for us, please.
Yeah, I think I'd come home with full memory cards, full drives, everything would be fine.
As long as it doesn't fall in the boiling river, because that happened to a colleague.
Oh, no.
Luckily, he was able to just get whatever remains from the camera, but the memory card was saved, which was a miracle.
Okay.
Yeah.
Blimey, if the memory cards got trashed, then, oh my gosh, that would have definitely not gone down very well. If I was taking pictures and I dropped the camera in the boiling river, I don't think I'd be happy with myself, and neither would Dad.
Yeah.
Because we can't afford another one. Yeah, I'm glad the memory cards are safe though. So you did still get the pictures?
Yeah, that would have been just a nightmare. But again, it's just the things that happen in the fields. I think the thing I've learned the most is I can be as prepared as it comes. And every time I'm like, oh, this time I'm prepared. And this happens to me absolutely every time I go back, okay? So many times a year. But there is absolutely always something, because you're dealing with nature. It's the unexpected, it's the wild, and that is also the beauty of it. And I think anybody that works in nature, whether it's science or conservation or photography, any type of storytelling, I think there's just the unpredictability that in a way I think as a human species love, and I think in a way almost miss. We're so dictated by calendars and phones and technology that as positive and fascinated as it is, I think there isn't a predictability in the wild that I think, when as frustrating as it can be at the beginning, when you're back to it, I think there's just something that rekindles that it must reconnect to how we used to live. Our ancestors used to roam the earth and just adapt to the cycles of the oceans and the sun and the winds, And I think that has been one of my biggest lessons in the Amazon of I am going to prepare as best as I can, but I know something will go wrong and we'll just deal with it. And it's that type of adaptability, I think, and resilience to change and quick, challenges that arise. That it's one of my favorite things of going back, besides all the beautiful animals, pink dolphins and the pike and any of the beautiful wildlife that we see,
What was it like to see the pink dolphins?
Oh, it's fascinating. I think the first time I saw them, I must have be 5 or 6. Can barely remember, but I remember the playfulness of it. And you can find them in the northern part of the Peruvian Amazon.
Okay.
And so lower altitude, they love to be around there. And they tend to travel as a family, and there has been instances where I get to see them with their small babies per se. Absolutely gorgeous. They're so playful as well.
Bless them.
They have a lot of interaction with the fishermen. There's also a lot of myths around the pink dolphins, but they're just such beautiful creatures that like to be playful, but also just mind their own business. And because they are in a way elusive, we know some things about them, but we definitely don't know most of it. We haven't even mapped out their entire routes of migration across the Amazon, also because the waters are so murky and so brown, it is difficult.
Yes.
But there, we don't know so much about them. The fact that they are pink, that they're not born like that. They are born like, you know, the typical dolphins, the gray kind of color looking.
Yes.
But because of a combination of the speed and the strength of the water currents, as well as the different like chemistry, because of the trees and flora kind of like decaying and really merging with the chemistry of the water, there's just a combination of factors that then ends up turning their skin in the beautiful pink and sometimes really vivid pink that we get to see. And they're just absolutely beautiful, smart animals. And I would love to at some point work with them, because I think their relationship to the jungle is so unique too. Like in certain parts, for example, when it's rainy season and the levels of the waters rise up, it almost can feel. So imagine, okay, you have the river and you have trees, right? So you see them at that level. But when the levels of the water rise, now all you see are treetops. And so it feels as if you're navigating just around these bushes, but they really are tall trees. They are just submerged under the water. And in those cases, that is when the male pink dolphins then kind of travel a little bit around looking for food, while the females typically will be racing for their babies. So it's just such a fascinating relationship that they have with these ecosystems that really come and go, because you know, they rise at that level and then at some point they go down. So then they need to go and find other homes. Oh, it's just beautiful.
Yes, it's definitely beautiful. And what would you say is on your bucket list to still try and see?
I would like to find an anteater eating a stingless beehive. We have a new project with tapirs, which are kind of like considered the cows of the Amazon.
Yes.
They're just so cute and they're really like soft in a way. They're just so big. It's almost like they don't know their strength. So I find them so adorable. And we've had so many stories of them consuming medicinal plants that has not been documented yet. And they are considered such a powerful sacred spirit in specific parts of the Amazon. And they are in danger as well. So right now we have an incredible new project to try to create the route of the tapir to promote ecotourism, but also to be able to bring back their population. So we are doing planting of specific native trees and herbs that they like to consume as well as the people. So I feel like getting close to the tapir, I'm really excited for. And I don't know if you said this in camera yet, but the area where we're heading to the Amazon in a few weeks, there are confirmed by camera traps jaguars just about 10 minutes away, walking distance from where we will be. So I wonder if we'll have any kind of wild encounter, because I've only seen them really from a very long distance, if that, because it's become really difficult, unfortunately, to find them, especially with habitat fragmentation. So I think there's just anything new that we get to see. Killer caterpillar I find fascinating. I've only seen a big one, because I've seen tiny ones quite often, but the big one's only like one so far, and that like blew my mind. I think there's a photo of it in the book.
Yes, I do think there is one. Yeah, and it's incredible because they're like multicolored. They have oranges and greens and blues. It's just incredible.
Yeah, it feels like if you drew it, like you could actually have drawn it and then be like, no, that doesn't exist. And it absolutely does. It's like screaming danger, but it's also screaming like play and color and just like beauty. And the little spikes that they have, they're like turquoise color. So it's just, they're all these bright colors that I actually love. And they're just minding their own business. They just happen to be beautiful. Something else, I guess this is another one of my dear favorite chapters is the last one, chapter 12, where I talk about biofluorescent life. And that is, I think, a topic we are yet to hear about, because we've heard about biofluorescent life in our oceans and in other parts of our planet. And it's only really coming to life, like really known to us, because nature has known it for ages. But we haven't heard much of it from the Amazon. And there are some parts in the Amazon that they're so so rich with canopy that it gets quite dark. You can be in the darkness for quite extended periods of time. So if you would draw a parallel to the deep ocean, where you have darkness for extended periods of time, or that's your normal because you're so away from sun rays, then that drives the necessity for wildlife to adapt to constant darkness, which is how bioluminescent life also comes to be, like beautiful jellyfish that glow and all these gorgeous videos that we see online. But in a parallel way, there is also like the dark Amazon, if you may, and the pressures that creates on that wildlife hasn't really been explored. And so I talked a little bit about some work we've started to dabble with in that. That's just a fascination, I think, that comes with lights in nature.
Yes, it's definitely incredible. Have you ever seen a glowing mushroom with bioluminescent light?
We've seen lichen. So that's a type of microbes that is basically a combination of a type of fungus with a microbe. And then they just kind of limb symbiotic. And so they create this like super structure that we know as lichen, because they can really sustain some of the harshest environmental conditions. You'll find lichen. That's why it's so common to find them on tree trunks or like walls, or even if you just literally, we go outside to the garden right out here, I bet you will find like at least 10 type of lichen, and you can tell based on the color. Yeah, and so they're in rocks anywhere. And so we have found different lichen that glow under the black light, under UV light, and it almost feels as if you imagine putting like Christmas lights around a tree trunk, and then it just kind of glows up. It feels like that, but like the wild version of that.
Whoa.
I have seen some mushrooms that glow as well, but I think one of the most fascinating encounters, which I do describe in the book, was this tiny glass frog. It was like this size.
Oh, wow.
And it was kind of standing and sitting in this big kind of plant that had like big leaves, and our colleague happened to see it, and it was just minding its own business. And it had a little bit of like a green hue, but it was also a glass frog, so you can kind of it has a specific skin and body. But when we shine the UV light on it, its eyes were glowing, only the eyes, and I had never seen that out there. And also there's so many questions that fired in my brain as to what drives that, what only the eyes. And of course, has anybody seen this before? And so I went in I went in that deep rabbit hole of like research to kind of understand what had been done or not. But we didn't collect anything. So we just kind of observed, and it was just this wow moment of what else is glowing. And that led me to, just this whole idea of biofluorescence in the deep Amazon.
Yes, because I do remember one time in Australia, we were in a rainforest that night and we were looking for glowworms. And the walls were just filled with these little bright lights, and it was incredible. And then on the right-hand side of the path, there were just these green mushrooms, and it was incredible. Wow. And they were glowing like mad. It's actually quite rare to see them, so it was a very, very special moment when I did see them. And it was just incredible. And I do remember a moment when I was getting pictures of the glowworms, and Mum was watching, and she had to shine a red light on them so that the camera was able to pick up the glowworms. Otherwise, it would just be impossible, because the camera's a struggle to work in dark areas, because you have grain in the image, and there's loads of problems that can occur. And she said, "Jamie, just move back a minute." And then there was just a trapdoor spider came out of his house.
Oh my God.
Looking around, and it was literally there above my head. And then we put on the torch, main light, and the wall was just full of these trapdoor spiders. And then this king cricket came along, and you think, oh, the king cricket might be food for the spider. No, I scared it off.
Oh my goodness.
It was incredible. But when we did find out there were that many trapdoor spiders, I didn't go as close to the wall.
Not anymore? What did you feel when you first saw the glowworms? You remember?
It was incredible. It was like little torches have turned on everywhere. It was amazing. I remember we went into the little cave area, and it was just filled with these lights coming off. It was like you're in a movie. You know, it didn't feel real, but it was. It was like you were dreaming, and it was incredible. They were blue, and you could see the little sort of silk droplets that they made, and then the bright light. It was just incredible.
Wow, you just described it so beautifully. And you said torches. So when you get to chapter 12, text me afterwards, because I went into deep reading about just luminescence, whether it's biofluorescence, bioluminescence, and really dates back centuries in our planet. And like some of the earliest explorers like Darwin or Columbus and different others, they do describe, and they didn't have the scientific word for it, but they do describe luminescent life in our planet, often by saying torches of fire or torches of light in the ocean, like for example the plankton that kind of glows in certain parts of the ocean. And there's many cultures too, particularly in Asia, that have associated it to kind of spirituality as well. Like I can't recall the country, but there is one area where they believe that the spirit of a soldier, after they have died, it goes into a firefly. And so when you see a firefly glow up, you're seeing their spirit. In some others, they used to collect different kind of bioluminescent kind of resources or fungus, etc., to create torches, literally to light up paths. And so there was such a actually deep relationship that as humans we have to luminescence. Even some of the earliest drawings and caves, the scientists that studied it concluded that they were trying to refer to the aurora borealis, when the sky glows up. So I think the fascination, or like the deep sense of wonder that you just described so beautifully, I think it just comes, and I think all of our civilizations really in a way have come across it. They just get that. And I think that is something that I'm really excited to also, hear what people think of the book, but get into with the work that we do in Peru, because I think the sparkle for the curiosity that it ingrains in a human when you just see that light in nature, it just can be so fascinating. So it's almost like a new area of exploration in my head,
Yeah, it is definitely cool seeing the little lights. Oh, this is amazing. So it's just awesome.
I can't wait to see your photos. Can you share them?
I can send over a couple.
Yeah, that's so good.
I think I do have one picture of the glowing mushrooms. Because when we found them, we didn't know actually how rare they were. So it was even more special looking back at the pictures, seeing the glowing mushrooms.
Well, if you guys also figure out how to even take those photos, do come, because we want to be documenting more of this. We've heard of spiders or even snakes having the ability to glow, like biofluorescence. So when you shine UV light in the Amazon, there's just a variety that I feel like it just hasn't been really documented. We should do something about it.
It would definitely be incredible getting pictures of snakes that are lit up with UV light. That must be incredible. Do you know what species of snake they are?
No. So we haven't captured anything that we've seen. And I described 2 things that we got to see, but I feel like we are looking to put a team together to do this, and just through observation, really. So like to have the right team so that we can facilitate identification, but without really disturbing the life around. So hopefully I can come back to you next time with more on that.
It'd definitely be incredible if it was like a brand new species of snake that could glow up with UV light.
That's exactly it. Even that the frog that we saw, I don't know the exact species, but the only other frog that has been documented to glow from the eyes in the Amazon looked, just from the photos that we had, very different to what we've seen. So at least it is I'm not saying a new species, but it was at least the second species to have been at least seen or documented by someone that has that ability. So I think the scale of things that one can discover. It's absolutely endless, really.
Yes, it's never stopping, really.
No, yeah, exactly. Let's keep going,
Yeah. Well, now I think I'm going to move on to the special Eagle Hour question, which is, if you had £500 million, what would you do with it?
Wow. I think I would take incredible people like you and amazing scientists and people from just different backgrounds and different cultures to come and explore places together. Because I think when we bring everyone's perspectives and brains and emotions as well, I think we not only can we discover new biodiversity, but I think we can also do something positive that helps back the local communities, that helps back conservation efforts to actually create change. With our work, we were able to use science and in the span of 2 years advocate to create a new law for stingless bees. And we are a small team. We're independent. We don't have giant funding in any scenario. And so I think it shows that when people come together from different expertise and different backgrounds, which is what we did for that project, and we really go at it, we can create change. So imagine if we get that at a global stage, So yeah, I think that's what I would do.
Yeah, it'd definitely be incredible to see people's ideas and different sides of things and discovering species. I think it'd just be incredible as you can also get pictures and you can document it as well, isn't it?
Yeah, I think we accelerate the protection of our planet and the sharing of why we need to fall in love again with nature. I think all of that gets accelerated when we're doing it as a community.
Yeah, it's definitely important to show people how amazing wildlife is.
Absolutely.
Because if some people love nature, then they want to protect it, and that's everything, really. Because if you protect nature, that even if it's quite common, maybe it'll turn into endangered or critically endangered. But if we can try and protect species that are already there, maybe we can sort of help them back into the...
Absolutely. The first stage is, if you know it, then you can love it. And if you love it, you will want to protect it, because that's what we do with our loved ones, right?
Yeah.
So I think it is that we need to move the needle for humanity, really, and just getting people to fall back in love with the very planet that, gives us life.
Yes. Do you find that people can sometimes be a little bit disconnected with wildlife?
Yeah, 100%. I think, the rate at which we are accelerating with development and many communities and people having to live in big cities for work and things that are a necessity, right? Also, in a way, drives us a little bit away from green spaces or just the wild, really. And I think sometimes people also have the idea that they need to go to the deep Amazon or, remote parts of Africa to reconnect with nature. No, you don't. You can go to your backyard. You can go to a tree, literally find one tree, which I think everyone can find within a reasonable distance, hopefully, to where they live, and if it's a busy city. And like you described so beautifully, you have hundreds of insects and birds and many other beautiful wildlife that comes to it. And I think if people just look at it through this macro lens and just stop for a minute, I think we can all fall in love. The beauty is just endless. We just have to look for it, and we will find it. That is no doubt. So I think that's also what I am hoping that I do with the book, is just slowing people down for a minute to just find the beauty again, that it's already there and it's just waiting to be found.
Yes, it's definitely amazing when you look at a tree, and even if you look at a leaf and you think, there's nothing on it, if you actually stand there and you look a little bit longer, you find that there's around about 1 million insects on it walking around. And I remember when I tried to find gold crests that are only 3 inches long, they are teeny tiny. I think they're the smallest bird in Britain, bless them. And the best way to find them is just to look at a fir tree and just see if there's any movement. Because if you do see the movement, it might be another bird, but it's still quite cool because is it?
Yeah.
It's just that buzz of excitement. If it isn't like, but
I'm gonna go look for them. That's so cool.
it's amazing when you do find them because they are very cute. I
I'm
do
gonna
find that
look
they're
them
quite
up.
cute.
Okay. Yeah, I'm excited to explore more of the England now that I live here. England's just biodiversity as well. I love the countryside. That's where we live as well. So I'm totally gonna text you about it. So you can tell me how to find them.
Yeah, it's definitely amazing when you do find them. It's just that buzz of adrenaline.
Oh.
Even if it's not a gold crest, something else. It's just
Yeah.
that buzz of adrenaline when you see it for the
Yeah.
first time.
Yeah.
It's
so
definitely
beautiful.
incredible.
Wow.
Oh, Dr. Rosa, this has been such an amazing podcast. I think I've run out of questions really now.
Thank you so much. You've been you're brilliant. I'm such a big fan of you. We need more
thank
people
you.
like you. You're incredible. Like, I cannot even imagine what you're gonna be doing, in 5 years, 10 years. You're absolutely a change maker. So thank you for what you're doing, to your amazing parents, to support and bringing this to life. It is so powerful and like imperative to get people like you now out there advocating, giving voice to the voiceless. So no, this was absolutely a brilliant conversation. Thank you for having me.
Oh, thank you so much. It's been amazing to talk to you about your book and wildlife encounters and everything. It's just been incredible. Thank you so much for
Thank you
coming
so
on
much
my
for
book.
having me. Thank you guys as well so much.
Fingers crossed for the best for the future with your journeys as well.
Thank
Hopefully you have some good stuff with the tapirs.
Yeah, well, we'll bring you to the jungle next time. So,
that
you'll
would
come
be
see
amazing.
for yourself.
Thank you. Well, before I end this awesome podcast, I have a couple of riddles for you to try and answer.
Gosh. Okay.
And I do wonder if there's a riddle box because I write my own riddles
Oh my
and
gosh.
I have a little book and I put down every single riddle
Oh
and
my
there's
gosh.
loads of scribbles in it and loads of stuff.
All right, disclaimer, I'm terrible with I panic in the moment, so I'll probably be really bad, so don't judge me.
Okay, we'll see how you go. I got 2 little riddles.
Okay.
Just chuck the book over if you want.
It's time for Dad to get into French.
There we go. Usually it's the magic hand, but this time we got a bit more on a hand. We got an arm coming in. Yes. Now I gotta find them. See, there's the scribbles and everything. Okay, I've gone back. That's too far.
I'm getting nervous. All right, I'm
There's
sweating.
loads of riddles in here for all the different podcasts. And there's one. I found one. Okay, so here's the first riddle. I'm something that you can hear, not see, and you use certain foods to deter me. I'm known to be very bad, and if you're not worried, you'd be mad. What am I?
Okay, wait, say it again.
I'm something that you can hear, not see, and you use certain foods to deter me. I'm known to be very bad, and if you're not worried, you'd be mad. What
Oh
am
my
I?
goodness. Yeah, no, I'm gonna fail at this. No.
Try and give you another clue. It's definitely in the book. In that sort of area over there as well. It's in that sort of area.
Oh, wait.
Yeah. There we go.
Okay.
And there's the second one. Close. Nice and close. Flick over one page next time. Okay, and the second one is this. We're found in Peru, wild and free, and our secret home can be found on a tree. We don't have protection like our relatives do, so we will never ever really harm you. What am I?
Oh, yeah, that's the easy. That's the stingless bee.
Yay!
That was a beautiful riddle, actually, because that is true. They need more protection. We're doing everything we can.
Yeah.
With my organization, and there's many people that are looking to, really, one of the most important species in the Amazon. I think they are the key to regenerate it.
Yeah.
So thank you for giving them a spotlight. Yeah.
No, it's okay. Always try to give a bee a spotlight. I do love bees. I think I've at least got 4 soft-eye bees.
Oh,
So,
wow. Yeah.
who are in the podcast area. They're famous now.
Oh, they are. Like wild bees in general, they just deserve such a big applause. And I'm ambassador for Be Wild, which is a campaign actually started in the UK and worldwide. So I'll connect you. And it is that idea. We have to give light to wild bees. Honeybees are important, but wild bees are too, you know? So thank you for highlighting them. That's beautiful.
That's fine. Anything I can do to try and help insects and all animals.
You are.
Anything
Absolutely, you are.
Oh, thank you.
Well, thank you so much. This has been fantastic.
Oh, it's been amazing to chat to you, Dr. Rosa. Thank you so much for coming on my podcast. And thank you, everyone, as well. Wasn't that an awesome podcast? Getting to talk to Dr. Rosa Vásquez Espinoza about bees, her book, loads of animals, encounters, special moments, and pretty much everything wildlife possible. I'm certainly going to be reading this book plenty of times. And what I find with this book as well is that it sucks me in like a Harry Potter book, and not in a bad way, in a really, really good way. I'm enjoying this book so much. So I'll thank Dr. Rosa so much for lending us this book for me to read. It's been incredible reading halfway through it. I'm definitely going to read more. Don't forget to subscribe to hear more lovely podcasts just like this one. See you there!